Welcome back, everyone. So we have Melanie Goldman for our next speaker. So Melanie Goldman is a leading light in the field of mental health advocacy and helps fight on behalf of those with borderline personality disorder, based in Toronto, Canada. Melanie has spent the majority of her life working in the music industry and composing music, and she has earned a degree in psychology after realizing she needed to fend for herself after being in a hospital 10 years ago. Melanie, who has been diagnosed with BPD, decided 3 years ago that she wanted to use both her music and her new master's degree to help others with the disorder. She went to work and researched everything about BPD and found the appropriate medical professionals, treatments, and community resources. She then took the next step and began directly aiding the communities, gradually coming to understand that her story could help save countless lives. Melanie has been actively involved in the field of mental health ever since she started her master's degree. She has volunteered for multiple groups and helped many people find the resources they needed to get a diagnosis. And she has been a guest on a number of podcasts and a YouTube TV series about BPD. Melanie recently accepted a position as a peer facilitator where she helps support groups. And since the general public has skewed conception of BPD within the mental health system, Melanie has many far-reaching ambitions for the mental health communities and BPD, including the establishment of her own center for BPD. Melanie's sister, Jackie, and grandmother, Ray, both suffered and are currently suffering from BPD and bipolar disorder, and Melanie hopes that one day she will be able to help others find their own ray of light. So welcome, Melanie.
Thank you so much. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Bailey, for having me and everybody else at BPD Society of BC, and we're both Canadian. So I'm just going to go right ahead into what I've prepared. Okay, so for me, memories aren't as clear, but yet I store so much inside of my body. And it's been years that I'm just working to let go of everything that I have inside my body. And I know that anybody who identifies with BPD can understand that we carry pain and we can't identify exactly what the pain is. But this last month, I've moved into working with a new therapist. And when I describe the pain of anxiety, it's not always a clear memory. It's not always a clear trauma, but it's pain. Some days it gets harder to deal with the pain, and some days I just want to scream and get the pain outside of my body. And I often say this on podcasts and episodes that people with BPD all have a secret language and a secret bond that we share. And it's not that we're all completely the same, because we have 256 combinations of BPD, but that we have a secret language, that the pain is understood. And that it's also understood that we can almost speak a secret language that it's like, I understand exactly what you're saying. I've been there. We've all lived 1,000 different lives, but yet we all can understand what each other are feeling and saying. And so that pain that's stuck in my body, it's also stuck in your body too. So the sheer amount of pain, though, every day that we feel, it's a choice that we have to go to battle with. The amount of pain, though, and the amount of emotions that we go from every single moment and every single hour, it's a battle. It's a battle that I have to choose. And I personally have to go to war. And I say that every morning I'm waking up and I'm choosing to go to war. And it's a choice. You either have a choice to go to war or you don't have a choice. And so some people can say, well, I didn't choose to have BPD. I didn't choose not to, but my thoughts is that I have to choose to fight. And so I say 8 years ago in my recovery from this diagnosis, I don't sugarcoat this for anyone, but recovery is not linear. And so for me personally, I don't necessarily believe in words like remission. And I don't believe in things when people say, just get over it. And when someone says to me, would you be now in the phase of remission or cure? I say, I have a fighter tattoo right here. I say, for me, it's a fight. I have to fight every single day. I have to learn how to manage it. And they have words like functional recovery. Right now, I also speak about individual recovery. So for some people, they might identify with remission and that makes them feel good. So whatever makes you feel good. But for me, it feels good to say I'm in functional recovery, but also feels good to say I'm fighting. I'm fighting these emotions every day and I'm choosing to go to war. Because if I say I'm in remission and I wake up one morning, which still happens 8 years later, and I don't want to be here, and that's okay. I don't want to be here today. That's hard because some people go, well, I'm in remission now and I don't want to be here. There's that, what the hell? Like that doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense to me. So as I'm moving along here, in management, I believe whether you have BPD or not, that we're all broken. We're all broken as people. So it's the people who are brave that speak about it. And I'm not saying people who aren't brave aren't speaking about it, but it's the people who are speaking about it that can help those other people that are in silence suffering. And we're suffering, right? Because we're all broken a little bit. But people with BPD, we have these emotions that can be explained, that can't be explained, that are so misunderstood. So if the brave ones put themselves out there and I tell you, I don't always want to put myself out there. And some people are like, you're so loud, you're so out there, you know, sometimes you should, sometimes you shouldn't. I don't always want to put myself out there. It's really extremely debilitating when you put yourself out there with what's out there. And then I get beat up. So it takes the brave ones to also notice that it hurts. It's effing hard to do this, right? So it's also the brave ones storing that pain I was talking about in the beginning, because we're all storing it in unimaginable places that are so hauntingly hard to talk about it. But it's the reason I also fight, not just because of me, but because I hear every story. I see my sister, I see hundreds of people online and talk to them throughout the years. And I know why people can't talk about it. And when they do, what happens? Because the stigma and people don't understand. It's not just the myths that Catherine just went through. It's the feelings that we already have. And on top of that, the feelings that we have to add on to those feelings. Could you imagine all that bottled up, like imagine that sort like feelings on feelings on feelings. So I do want to talk about one more thing with that. It's also brave when you put your feet on the ground in the morning and you fight when you don't want to. That's the hardest part of recovery, because people don't talk about how hard it is just to manage a day with BPD, because that's the real tough thing. Because people are like, oh, you're burnt out. Yeah, I'm burnt out. And I got all these emotions beating me. Emotions take the physical part of your life out of you. They just wipe you. So I often ask this question to people. It's a trick question. How do you measure love? And personally, for me, the truth is you don't. Real love, in my opinion, shouldn't be measured, right? It should be given freely and supportively. And to me, it should feel like a warm hug, and it should feel unconditional, and it shouldn't feel like you're grasping and you're reaching and you're trying. And it shouldn't feel like half of my life I've tried to earn love, right? And people's recognition and support. Then when you grow up, when you're young, why do you feel and see and hear pain, like when you're young, and turbulence, you start running out of your body. And the definition of fear is to take flight. And so it's hard to live in this place when you're wanting support, right? You're constantly wanting support. But now this speech, I want to be very clear, because I could do a speech about blame, because throughout the years, you probably have heard with BPD, you want to blame, blame, blame. And I don't mean this in any mean regard. And that a lot of people have had invalidating environments. And I'm not saying that my environment was perfect, because if that was a whole story of lived BPD, great environment. But throughout the years, I've heard many stories that are all circled around blame. And that's never been effective for me. And I have to be honest to anybody listening today, it's never effective to blame outwards. And I mean that with so much love, meaning that it's not about blaming my parent or the environment, right? And so I wouldn't be who I was today if I blamed that part in my healing journey. So for me, as speaking to lots of people, I've observed that blame. But what's important to know is when you're constantly measuring yourself, you start running. And I started running out of my body and trying to prove myself. And I started running into bonds and started running into bonds that didn't make any sense and living in pain. And it hurt so much, not just like as a little girl, but all throughout high school, university, every single moment up until my diagnosis. But I was running into versions of what I thought the world needed me to be and not who I wanted to be. And not just until my diagnosis, not really until just this year. And I still am holding on to pieces of what I think the world needs me to be. And so understanding that when you're trying to constantly fit the world's version of you, and that's all you're hearing in your head, that's all you continue to hear in your head is turbulence, noise, and noise, and noise when you're a child. And once again, not blaming. But when you're trying to find, for example, an outfit with my mother when I'm 10 years old and I'm very, very, very overweight and I'm crying my eyes out to my mother and we're going every single store in a mall and I'm crying my eyes out and I want to fit in. Mom, I want to fit in. I need the perfect outfit. I need the perfect outfit so I look perfect. I need perfect friends. I need everyone to fit in. It gets to the point where why couldn't I just say, hey, Mom, can I find clothes that fit me, fit my body, fit who I already am at 10 years old, right? Why is it that I have to get the clothes or lose the weight already at 10 years old? I'm creating body dysmorphia. I'm creating body images, problems. I'm creating some suffering. And so when I look into the mirror, I've never really been happy with the version that I see back. And that's sad for me. And it's sad, just honestly, it's sad in the sense where you look and you run so far out of your body, you've disassociated yourself that you forget when you look in the mirror, you see nothing, you don't see who you are, you see nothingness. And you don't have an identity anymore, right? So then it got to the point where I was drinking so much in high school, drinking so much in university, that you avoid feeling anything. And that I was getting so blackout drunk every night that I was waking up in my car, in university, never knowing what happened the night before. And it got to the point half the time that I was so confused in university and half of high school, just wanting to forget the pain. But to be honest with you, eventually it led to a DUI, and I'm going very fast because of my time constraint. But then it went to the point where I was dating guy after guy after guy, trying to avoid the emotional pain of loving myself, where I ended up in codependency and anonymous and love addiction to getting a sponsor. So I'm giving you these examples very quickly as someone leading up to my diagnosis. And these examples are probably my examples. And as I said, we've all, with BPD, there's stories. But these are examples for me where I thought I was running away from myself to fill a hole because I wasn't filling the hole within myself. And you see, when you're a child and all you hear your whole life is noise, that noise gets filled with a lot of hate. And, the hate gets translated into more hate. And as you get older, no one teaches you. They don't teach you how to love yourself. They don't teach you what the right voice is. So you constantly are running and you're in fear. Like I said, you're in flight, but it never goes away until you properly teach yourself what the right voice is, until you properly tell yourself, hey, you've been running away from yourself for so long. And so until you fix that voice, every area of my life, I could give you a million more examples, and I did them very quickly, but every area of your life, you'll always be running. And the funny thing is, every one of those examples led me, and I was in the music industry, as my introduction said, where I was with all of my managers were prime examples. Every manager that led me, I listened to every single thing they said. I never argued. I removed my music when they told me. I sang the way they want me. I acted the way, like, I never had my own voice, which is very sad for somebody, because I had a burning desire to have my own creativity, to almost burst out the way I'm talking now, to almost be myself. And I loved to sing. I loved to sing since I was a little girl. I love to sing the same way I love to talk to people, love to make people feel good. But yet every person would come into my life and tell me what to do. And all of a sudden I was like, oh for sure. Don't leave me, help me. Yes, you're right. And I removed all of my music when they told me to. And to this point, to this day, I spent thousands of dollars, and I don't even have half the music up, like 1/5 of the music up online. And it all mirrored the men I dated. It all mirrored who I was. And, when you spend all that time, you end up you fall out of love with music, basically, and out of love with why you're doing what you're doing, basically, because you realize you're doing everything for the wrong reasons and you don't know who you are. And so, was this, I say again, we're not talking about blame, but I said, was this all because I had to walk on eggshells when I was a child around my father? And was this because every man or every person, and it's funny, there's a book, Walking on Eggshells, for people with BPD, right? And then I go, for those who know this book, and then I go, I had to start my life super calm for the people around me. And have I done that my whole life? And so I could go on and on. I wish I could, but we don't have the time. But, when the world needs you to be a certain way, you forget who you are. But more than that, when you're born a certain way, you forget what the strengths are in it. And when people are a certain way, it starts killing every part of you, but the good parts of you, even the parts they say that aren't good with BPD. Because I have to tell you, just because you're super sensitive and super caring, that's not a bad thing. And, it's interesting. I've led up to all these things, and we talk about symptoms of BPD. So there was fear of abandonment and fear of rejection and loss of identity and intense patterns of unstable relationships, impulsive and risky behavior. I didn't mention, but I did. I was drinking. So this all led to a means to an end, which was a month before, really just the month before my diagnosis. I was in bed straight, so depressed, ended up in Sunnybrook Hospital, thanks to my sister. And, I said it in a couple podcasts this year, but I don't have as much time as I'd like. But I ended up with a pamphlet this big and a diagnosis of BPD. I had no idea what that was, but I needed some answers after not knowing what was going on pretty much my whole life. You end up with a big question mark. But I said my diagnosis to this day was my magical cure. Like, I don't believe in cures, but it was my magic because it was my answer to me. Finally, here I was, like me, finally it was me. And, this pamphlet was scary as F. Who wants to get a big pamphlet? And, I started from the first therapist on the list down to the bottom, wait lists, and there's issues. And then you have to go to DBT groups, which I decided to. It's not pretty. I'm not going to lie to people. I have never lied to people. I didn't like every therapist, and I'm studying in my master's to become one. You're not going to like every therapist. I always tell this to people. It's like, do you like everybody likes peanut butter and jelly? No, they don't. And does everybody mesh with every person? No, because if you identify with BPD, our biggest struggles are in interpersonal relationship skills. So even the one woman that I remember from the beginning, I really didn't like this therapist. Would I like her today? Probably. So we're talking about years later in my recovery journey. Like, I probably really didn't like her because I was like, look at her with her clipboard. But who knows now, right? We're years down the road. But back to my paper and my pamphlet, I said in BPD Bravery's podcast 2 months ago, I said, I made that pamphlet my bitch. Like, I decided to because I had to. And we have choices, like I said, to go to war or not to. And my husband, I'm married now. I never thought I'd get married. Okay. So anybody out there, I never thought I'd get married. I'm married. But we have choices, and it's scary because we don't necessarily choose, and we can choose to go to Google. Don't necessarily always go to Google with BPD. In the beginning, I did. And I was like, oh my God. But at the same time, you can, because we have choices of whether we're going to react or we're not going to. And the mental health system does not make it easy in the States and Canada, with insurance, with wait lists, with doctors, with choices. But there are free resources. One Bailey offers them. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to say that it's easy when you show up to these groups and you're going to like every group and like every person and all of this stuff. But I'm going to tell you, it's easier when you do the work. It's easier when you do actually something. There's something in DBT, willingness or willfulness. Are you willing to actually just try? Another thing that I always talk about is individual healing for this reason. I'm Mel. You're whoever out there. Why are you trying to do what I did? Just because somebody did EMDR and it worked for them, why is that going to work for you? It's probably not always necessarily going to work for you. Do you get that? Try it. If it doesn't work for you, don't give up. Try something else. And so another thing I want to say is I'm in my master's, and I've been running my whole life, and I decided every discussion board I put on in my biography, hi, I'm Melanie. I have a diagnosis of BPD. And proudly on my discussion boards and my courses, I get at least one message from one classmate every single class. And, I had lunch yesterday with a classmate and who I made friends with, whose ex identified with BPD. And it was one of the best hours I've had all month. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know who's suffering. So I've been thankful for the people I've connected with, the communities. I've lost friends. I've lost my mind 100 times yesterday, just joking. But I'm happier now. I'm not running away. I think a part of the fear of abandonment I had and validation was I was constantly abandoning myself my whole life. I'm now married. I'm 6 years sober, like I said. And I think the hardest stuff about living with BPD is that people think you should be farther, like I said, or people think, but people will always think, like I said, people will think what they want to think. This is your individual story. And it's only easy when you do what you got to do for you. And every month I have at least a few days that suck the life out of me. And it's like an onion. This is my metaphor that I love. It's like an onion. It just keeps peeling back and peeling back and peeling back layers. It just what, you think your life's over? No, your life just keeps peeling back different parts of it. It's a process. Life is a process. You are a process, but I'm not running anymore. And in a world where I have lots of goals, I'm not running anymore for myself. And that's what I'm proud of. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not running away from anybody. I'm not running away from my parents anymore. I'm not running away from ex-boyfriends that hurt me. I have a husband that I talk to proudly. I'm sober. I want to live in a world where people understand that BPD is not a life sentence. BPD is this beautiful thing that I actually talk about, and it's brave. Like I said, what are the good characteristics of it? So I just want to live in a world, personally, this is me, because this is my time. I want to live in a world where I wake up every day, not every moment, but I can smile because people are celebrating BPD. They're celebrating it being overcome. And I want to talk about how much we go through, how we're warriors, like we're badasses. And I just want to say it gets easier. It does. It's not easy. I want to say, like, it's not easy at all, but a lot of this is darkness with light. And I say, you get your ray of light with the darkness, and you can't be who you are as a human and go through all this without going through the darkness. So thank you. I had more, but I'm going to leave it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was like super inspiring and uplifting, and also spoke the truth, like your truth and the reality of like what it's like to live with BPD. And I don't think we've actually virtually met yet.
No.
So nice to see you.
I feel like I was talking with you to you. I was like, yes.
Yeah. We've talked lots online, but yeah, it's really nice to meet you. And you have your own like rally of
oh my God, I don't have, because I can't
supports
see
online. So much love on the side. Yeah, so much this. Love you, Melanie's amazing. One of the most beautiful souls I'm blessed to know. lots of love. You remind me to keep fighting. So yeah, lots of.
I know I used all my time up, but tell everybody I love them, and I'll tell them next when I have to run out. I love you all back, and you too, Bailey. Bailey's amazing, everyone, if you can stick around. But yes.
Yeah, and we'll be on the same presentation next week.
Yeah, next week, exactly.
Yeah. So Melanie will be presenting for Emotions Matter next week. If you check out more of your story or talk that you have. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
thank you so much again for everything. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. Okay. Take care.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, thank you everyone again. And we will have our next presenter up at 3 p.m. So grab a tea or have a break, and we will be back then. And if you want any more information about our programs and services, and or to donate to support with our DBT program to keep it up and running, you can go to our website at www.bpdbc.ca. See you at 3 o'clock.